Before we get to episode 3, real quick, I just wanted to let our listeners know that there's another way that you guys can support the podcast. If you're if you're looking for some cool merchandise with our logo on it or a funny saying from the show that you like, you guys can go over to saltynerdstore.com. It takes you directly to our Teespring account. And there's a whole bunch of different stuff there. There's mugs, stickers. We're going to work on getting some hats for you. Shirts, of course. You can get the Salty Nerd Warrior shirt, which is one of our favorites.
Salty Justice Warrior.
Salty Justice Warrior. What did I say?
Salty Nerd Warrior.
Salty Justice
you
Warrior.
did it wrong.
I did it completely wrong. That's all right. We'll leave it in here. So again, that's saltynerdstore.com. You guys can head over there to check out some of our merchandise. And of course, you can also head over to saltynerd.com and check out all of our awesome content and videos and YouTube and podcasting stuff that we do. So
yeah, we put all of our content up on that site.
Tons of fun. So if you're curious about why one of our shirts says something goofy like "Don't poo poo pants what I like" or something, you can head down to some of our older episodes and you can find out what the inside joke's all about.
I don't read movies.
I don't read movies. Yeah,
is that one up there yet?
I'm not a freaking blokey sidekick.
Each have deserved better.
There's all kinds of cool stuff in there. You guys can go check it out. That's saltynerdstore.com. All right, episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Almost universally seen as the best of the prequels.
But that's like kind of saying the flu's better than coronavirus.
Guys, no. I was so excited about this movie. So when I lived in Texas when episode 3 came out, and Star Wars Celebration 3 took place a little bit before it. And I borrowed my Aunt Linda's RV, and I took my wife at the time and Devin, my oldest son, and we went to Indianapolis, Indiana, and enjoyed Celebration 3. Had a blast, and I got a bunch of I still have a lot of the stuff. I got the exclusive Darth Vader Celebration 3 action figure that I had to wait in line and overnight for. But it was a lot of fun because all the other dudes in line, we had lightsaber duels and we just talked and about all kinds of shit. And it was, and mostly we were doing the duels just so we could be active to keep warm because it was snowing and bitterly cold and there was ice everywhere. And they showed one of the things they showed the trailer and they had all the panels and stuff. So we were primed and excited for it. I bought what were those called? Those really expensive lightsabers, back then. Who put those out? The
Force FX or something?
Something prop replica or something like that. Mm-hmm. Force FX. So we got a couple of those, and then it even says on it that you're not supposed to play with them. But we
of course you do.
But we totally did. And so when we went and saw the midnight showing in Texas, I think we went in it was Kingwood, Texas at the time. I actually got pulled over on the way to the theater.
Oh no.
Which, it was all good, whatever, I got out of that. And then we made it to the theater, and everybody's cosplaying. We have our lightsabers and stuff. And Devin is looks like Anakin. He's got the Anakin haircut, from Phantom Menace. And I'll never forget it, man. It was so dope. When we get into the theater, it was one of these theaters where it had almost like a stage area in front of the screen. And there were dudes down there from just local Star Wars clubs having lightsaber duels. And when they saw Devin come in, they go, "Look, it's the chosen one." And they just grab my kid and involve him. And I'll never, this dude was jumping around and rolling around and making my son look dope. I mean, my son didn't know what the hell he was doing, but he looked so cool. That's awesome. So I just have this really happy, fond, other than getting pulled over on the way, but this really happy, fond memory of the whole, from Celebration 3 to the experience at the theater before it came out and to watching the movie. And I was just on such a high of the whole dad family thing that I fucking love that movie. And I rewatched it and I still I have no shame in saying it. I fucking love that movie.
A lot of people feel that way.
It's a good movie.
I'll tell you my experience with seeing this for the first time. So I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I was in the south of France. I was at the Cannes Film Festival, and this was the premiere of Revenge of the Sith. I can remember George Lucas was there. He had rented out the Queen Mary, this huge luxury liner that he had members of the cast staying there, and it was a big deal at the Cannes Film Festival. There were signs everywhere with Darth Vader on it saying "Revenge of the Sith." And the day that it was set to premiere at the main theater at the film festival, they had kind of a pre Star Wars festival that they took all the fan made short films and showed them in the big theater. And so I went and saw that. And then that evening, I got to dress up in my tuxedo and walk down the red carpet and, go to see the premiere of this movie. And, I was up in the nosebleed seats in the balcony. And I was just like super excited to see this thing, because even though I didn't like the previous two movies, I was like, this is going to be an experience. And, how often do you get to see a Star Wars movie with George Lucas in the audience and stuff like that? And I can just remember like just praying and hoping, like, I really hope that this is going to be a good movie, good Star Wars movie. And, I watched it and I was just like, nope. And I can remember when I was walking out of the theater, I'm surrounded by, industry people and people who, are genuine Star Wars fans, and we're all dressed up in our tuxes and we're walking out and everyone's just like, they just look so different. They were like, we were really hoping it would end on a high note. And it was just, it is the best of the prequels, but in my opinion, it's still just not a very good movie.
I wish I could tell you my experience for this movie, but I don't remember it.
Why were you like?
I know I saw it in a theater, but I think I was so like drained from the previous two movies that I was just like, all right, let's go watch this thing and be done with it. But it's by far the best of the first three movies of the prequels. But
it's got the absolute best lightsaber duel
for 100%
out of
100%.
all 9 films.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna say, when I watch this movie now, I just kind of fast forward until the throne room scene when he goes, "Now rise, Lord Vader."
Yeah.
Then I start watching the movie because that's when it gets good. So.
He starts killing kids.
Yeah, when the younglings die is when the movie starts.
So,
Dude, to me, that's like, that's so brutal.
that was rough, man. Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we going to do?
I will say this movie has the best opening shot of any Star Wars movie ever.
I'll
Okay,
agree.
this is gonna kind of harken back to the other one where it was the chase scene in Coruscant. It was just so freaking long. I was like, all right, can we just?
No, I'm talking about the opening shot.
Yeah,
the first 10 seconds when they're flying.
Oh, when
through
they're flying
ships.
in between the ships. Yeah, but like after that,
like it's kind of it's kind of low key, and you see these two starships, and then they go past like the big capital ship, and everything is just like
expands,
exploding right in orbit. And I can remember when this movie came out on video, I got like the Blu-ray and I watched it on my high def TV for the first time, and it almost looked like 3D to me. Like the graphics were just so incredible.
Gorgeous.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Like that opening shot, it blows anything else away out there.
Yep.
Yeah, I still feel like you could probably cut a good.
I think
3-4
my
minutes
favorite is still the first one from the first movie. It's always going to be, but
episode 4.
yeah.
Freaking totally.
But this one's good. It's up there.
It was up there.
Right.
This movie, at this point in time, I was old enough to kind of know that these weren't great movies.
Right.
So I had already been like turned to the dark side by like Red Letter Media and other things like that. I was like, okay, so these movies aren't great. Let me try and at least get some enjoyment out of it. And I remember watching this one, and as soon as they had R2 doing some weird freaking slapstick comedy stuff with the droids, and he was like squirting oil on them and lighting them up, I was like, really? Are we doing this again?
Well, didn't he do that? He did that kind of stuff in Return of the Jedi.
He wasn't flying around like.
Well, no, it would have made more sense if he was at Jabba's floating thingy, but like he did some.
What did
like,
he do?
He'd electric zap some people.
Salacious Crumb with a taser. That's not anything compared to.
I know, but I'm just saying the seeds were already planted.
I guess. I mean, this this is definitely like everything George did in the originals. He just amped it everything. I went up to 11 in these prequels, but I was like, all right, man, can we? And then I really, really like. I think you said you mentioned it too. I really liked the fight between Anakin and Dooku. I thought that was dope.
Oh God, yeah, at the beginning.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I actually it got taken down. I put it on YouTube, so this would have been like 2000. I don't know.
It came out in 2005.
Yeah. So this would have been probably 2006 because I waited for to rip it off of the DVD.
Yeah.
But I set the whole that opening scene to a Deftones song called Rapture. And it was like every time they were like, because that it's just so rapid, and when the two of them are fighting, And that song's got a lot of like boom boom ba-da-da, boom boom ba-da, and it just seemed to like link up.
that.
Oh my god! But YouTube took it down because that was before they did the thing where like if you used music that they would put ads on it. Like it was back when they would just take the shit down. You know what I mean? It's gone.
I always kind of feel like Obi-Wan should have taken Anakin aside and said, "Hey, we need to have a talk about beheading people."
Yeah,
About
you're
your
right.
aggression.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't know that he killed him though, or he knew he killed him, but he didn't know how.
Speaking of Obi-Wan, the worst part of that fight is when Obi-Wan gets knocked out and then that thing falls on top of him.
Oh, he gets crushed.
It should have crushed his leg, but he's like, nah, he's fine.
He should have broke him in half.
Yeah.
man.
Leave him, or we'll never make it. His fate will be the same as ours. Hayden Christensen.
You're a better actor than Hayden Christensen, Alex.
Thank you. There's like, again, it's the same story over and over again. I feel like I'm repeating myself too many times, but it's always like there's this level of awesomeness, but then it's subverted by this level of cringe, like right next to it. It's just like, oh my God.
It's like we have this really cool, badass lightsaber fight and beheading, and then we got the giant capital ship landing on the airstrip or whatever on
worry.
the planet.
we're already, or what do you say? We're still flying half a ship.
Yeah. That thing would have dropped like a
Oh my God, like
rock.
a rock, just straight down. There's no flying. He was the best star pilot in the galaxy.
And so what about? So what are you guys' thoughts on Dooku? He was fleshed out more in that Clone Wars 2-part cartoon movie that I like. But like, what did you think about his inclusion in the actual movie itself?
In the prequels, it feels kind of inconsequential and kind of out of nowhere because I mean you
He's
kind of
barely in these movies.
you kind of get the idea that he was Qui-Gon's old master, but there's no real context for that. You don't even really know Qui-Gon that well.
You don't know why he left the Jedi Order or
there's
anything.
no information about him. He's very mysterious.
like how he became an apprentice of Sidious. Like there really is so little.
There's no emotional attachment to the character,
except for the fact
anything.
that it's Christopher Lee and he's a badass.
And he really didn't do anything until Anakin and Obi-Wan kind of faced off with him. Before that, he was just kind of like this leader of a rival political faction.
But the way Obi-Wan kills him is so brutal. It makes me think like, why
Anakin.
Dooku, or no, he doesn't kill him. Like he does the thing where he like crushes his heart. Like when they're fighting on that cliff thing, and he's just like, because doesn't he shoot him
In the movie?
Yeah, in the movie.
You're talking about Grievous.
Yeah, I am talking about Grievous. Who are you guys talking about?
We're talking. You said
We're talking
Dooku.
about Dooku.
Dooku. Oh,
Christopher Lee. Dooku.
Okay, it's the booze getting hold.
Darth.
I meant Grievous.
General Grievous.
Yeah, General Grievous. Yeah.
He's okay. See, that's another thing. Like, in concept, General Grievous is really cool, and it's kind of like a little bit of a hint to like where Anakin's
He was much better in the cartoon.
Oh
yeah.
God, everybody's much better in the cartoon.
Yeah.
But like, it's kind of a hint of where Anakin's going to ultimately end up. He's going to be more machine rather than man. That it was like a hint as to what's going to happen.
But my thing is like, didn't he do something like? Because I didn't get to finish 3 before this, so it's actually been a little bit since I finished. Doing another watch through of that. But I remember, didn't he do something where he like crushes his chest or something?
No,
like with the Force?
So like he opens up his breastplate to see that he actually has a organic beating heart there. Obi-Wan does.
Yeah.
And so that gives him a target for when he uses the blaster.
The blaster.
to feed
Okay.
him.
All right.
So uncivilized.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, Grievous is cool in concept, but again, it was one of those villains that just kind of came out of nowhere. We had no context.
And unless you
watch
watch the Cartoon Network like shorts for the Clone Wars, like you had no context as to who Grievous was.
Yeah.
it was
But man, they're
Again,
so good though. God.
Grievous and Dooku were both fleshed out a lot in the Clone Wars animated series, and that's another show. But
it's actually next, I think. Yeah, next week.
yeah, cool.
But anyway,
So-
so the plot of this movie, it's way simpler than the other two.
It's just the fall of Anakin.
Yeah, and I think
it's a much more cohesive story than the other two movies.
Yeah, very much so. And I did enjoy this. The movie itself, I don't feel like fails quite as much as the other two. And it's actually, I enjoyed it. I watched it again recently. I haven't watched it in a long time. I watched it again recently, and I was like, besides some of the more cringier parts, again, love story, George Lucas cannot write for dialogue for love stories, because that moment when they're together in their little apartment and they're like, no, I'm so in love with you. Oh, it's because I've blinded you? It's like, oh my God, dude.
No, all of that's terrible.
You know what gets me about that though? So the Padme love story. So in Attack of the Clones, there's that scene right after he, wipes out the sand people who killed his mother. And he's going off, he's like, but it wasn't just them. I killed the women. I killed the children. He's like doing his like exposition whiny dump. And, Padme, she's like, oh, I've never been more turned on in my life. But then like in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan comes to her and he's like, Anakin killed the younglings. And she's like, that's not Anakin. He would never do that. It's like he literally confessed to you that he killed women and children, in the last movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like Anakin. It's like, wait a minute, what?
There was a pretty good argument about that scene. I mean, we're kind of going backwards to episode 2 again, but somebody had did a video essay about defending the idea that Padme could still have feelings for him after he had confessed doing that. And essentially it comes down to like, if you consider them not to be human, like if you were to look back at some old Western movies when the cowboy would go and say, I have to go kill these Indians or whatever. Like Padme had no context for what sand people were. She'd never even seen one. She'd only heard the horror stories about all these nomadic creatures that would come and kidnap people and kill you. And
I see. So it's different than killing, humanoid
it's not
children.
Like, it's not a bunch of kids at a Jedi temple who are defenseless. It was like, it was just these monstrous things that live in the deserts.
You gotta love how they call them younglings. That way they don't have to have that line of dialogue where they actually say he murdered children.
But Padme is the type of character where she wouldn't make a distinction on that.
Yeah,
no.
That didn't make
and
any sense.
it's kind of funny because she's actually more politically aligned with the separatists who are like the quote unquote bad guys in this movie.
That's actually in a deleted scene where it was kind of like the rumblings of a rebellion where she was basically with Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, a whole bunch of other people, and they were talking about like basically, hey guys, we're kind of the bad guys in this situation. Like there was a whole conversation, and it was part of the movie, but it ultimately got cut out, which is kind of a bummer because it does show that little spark of a rebellion that Padme was involved in, which is kind of cool for her character. But then again,
I don't know. I think one of the biggest elephants in the room for episode 3, besides like the no at the end,
Frankenstein
was fucking like how lazy of a writer is George Lucas with that death scene with Padme. She just lost the will to live. Are you kidding me? You know how many fucking times I've lost the will to live? I'm still here. Jesus Christ. If it were that fucking simple, there'd be a lot less of us here.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to address that because I felt the same way you did. I was like, what the crap? That's a cop out.
Yeah.
Like, what is she doing? She just had 2 children. She doesn't
come
want to
on.
stay alive.
Live for your babies.
So I feel like now that I've watched the movie
going.
multiple times, and of course I've had conversation after conversation with like super Star Wars nerds, is if you look at the movie and if you look at the context of what is happening, the droid is the one who says that. It's not her. The droid's like, we don't know why she's dying. It seems like she just lost the will to live because according to this computer, she's not coming back, and we don't know why. But then if you look at the context of the scene building between Anakin being rebuilt into Darth Vader, and he's supposed to be dead. I mean, the dude is in rough shape. And then you have Palpatine kind of like just sitting over him, like watching the creation of this Frankenstein monster. I like the idea that he is somehow manipulating the Force to take the power from Padme and keeping Anakin alive.
See, if they
And
had
that's
actually,
why he said at the end, in your anger, you killed her. He put the blame on him, but obviously
if they had
it was
actually made
Palpatine.
that clear in the movie, that would have been brilliant.
It would have been. No, I was just thinking, damn, man, you should have been like,
I think that's
you're making the movie better.
I think that's super nerd.
It's a
fantasy
solid
right there.
theory, though. I think it's a solid theory.
It is. No, that
Alex,
sounds good.
you're using your headcanon to make up for the movie's shortcomings. Like seriously, like what you just came up with is like 10 times better than what was in the actual movie.
But you know what? It's gonna make me enjoy it more. So thank you.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
That's what's going on in my head from now on too.
It's a good theory, and it works. Again, it's headcanon. Yes, I'll agree with Kate.
I like
However,
it. I like it better than Palpatine just trolling Vader. He's like, "Oh yeah, you killed your love.
You killed your wife."
It's funny. Like Jude. Jude doesn't like Star Wars, but we were watching it together last night, and the moment where Palpatine just starts like overacting, after he kills Windu, like she literally started cracking up.
It was
because
Mace Windu's not
Ian
dead.
McDiarmid's
like that
over the top performance. Like once he goes full Palpatine,
he turns into the devil.
Like there was a moment where like he
no.
Yeah, like after he shocks Windu, like he kind of goes like, he like almost looks like he's gonna pass out. Jude just started laughing.
He straight has a freaking boner when he's knighting Darth Vader.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
henceforth, you will be known as
Darth Vader.
You guys do that so good.
Hey, did you guys notice that in his fight with Yoda, he had the high ground, which is why he won? Any of you guys notice that?
Unlimited power.
I did. That was a really dope fight. Though.
It was,
Like, as much as we made fun of Yoda, kind of like hopping around like a frog in episode 2. Like when he goes up against Palpatine,
That's
awesome.
Although I don't get his running away, but I want to go back to. I don't think Windu's dead. I don't. I don't think he got his hand cut off. He got electrocuted out of a window, and like we've seen Jedi make huge falls and jumps and stuff like that. And Samuel L. Jackson did an interview recently where he was like, no, I'm still alive. Windu's still alive. Yeah. And like, I think I read like I'm sure it's out there. People can Google it, but he even talked to George Lucas about it. And George Lucas was like, sure. George pretty much. If you want to think he's still alive, buddy, he's still alive.
George pretty much does whatever Samuel L. Jackson says. Like, hey man, can I get a purple lightsaber? Yeah. It's like, all right, I guess.
But they're, hey, like if Disney Plus runs out of ideas, like give me a Mace Windu like kung fu type series where he's like old and he's got his fake hand and he's just like doing good deeds like around super low key. That'd be dope, man. That'd be so dope.
Season 4 of The Mandalorian.
Come on, that'd be so good.
It would be pretty cool.
So guys, there was some stuff I noticed in my rewatch that I'd never noticed before when I was watching this, and it kind of has some odd ramifications for this franchise as a whole. So one of my least favorite movies of all time, not just Star Wars, is The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
and there were so many things in The Last Jedi that just like rubbed me the wrong way. And one of them was the inclusion of fuel in the Star Wars universe. Because when they got to the whole like running out of fuel stuff, I was like, Star Wars never used fuel before.
Completely stole from Battlestar Galactica,
but
by the way.
In this movie, in Revenge of the Sith, there's a scene where Obi-Wan says, "My ship needs fuel."
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God. There's precedence
when he was on
Star Wars
ships,
needing fuel.
Well, he was flying around in like a little dinky personal sized ship, though.
He was, but he still said, "My ship needs fuel."
Since you brought up the Last Jedi,
I'm not sure if I'm ready for this conversation.
No, I'm not going to talk about. I just want to say, so when I left, something that the prequels never did to me. People talk all the shit they want about them.
We talk all the shit.
Well, here's the thing: when I left the Last Jedi, I felt like I got kicked in the dick.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I walked out of that theater. That's the feeling only men know in the pit of your stomach after you just got kicked in the balls real hard.
Yep.
That's how I felt when I left the theater. None of the prequels made me feel like that.
No,
none of them.
Disappointed, but not
defeated. Like, yes, So I just want to say, like, when you do your little lists, it's always for me the bottom 3. I mean, are gonna like the tail end one is gonna be The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
and then right above that is probably like The Phantom Menace. And then right above that.
We'll do this. We'll do this on the last week. When we talk about
it. In addition to the fuel aspect, so there's a part where, so you know how in, like we gave Rise of Skywalker crap about Palpatine, not being dead. Yeah. So there's a part where Palpatine is talking about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's implied that Palpatine was Plagueis' apprentice, and he killed Plagueis once he had learned everything there was to teach him.
Right.
And Darth Plagueis had learned how to conquer death. And so it's basically been established that, Palpatine can't die. He knows how to conquer death because he learned it from Darth Plagueis. And therefore, that gives justification to his return in Episode 9.
Are you saying he learned an ability that was quite unnatural?
Yes. But if you look at Episode 3, where he's given that talk about Darth Plagueis to Anakin, you can now justify him returning in Episode 9 because they basically lay it out right there that Palpatine knew how to conquer death.
I'm shocked that you were even trying to defend that movie.
I'm not trying to defend it. I'm like, it's the groundwork for it's there.
Yeah.
So like, I can't really criticize Episode 9 for that particular thing. I mean, I can, but I'm not justified in doing it.
That's
what I don't understand.
Solid reflection.
It came out later because I was a little confused when I left that movie. That so Palpatine was a clone, and if he okay, so I didn't think he was, but like I've been reading all these things where they're like, yeah, you know that guy from Lord of the Rings even says, oh, so you know like that throwaway line where he's like, so Palpatine's figured out cloning technology or something like that, which like is stupid because obviously he knew it because it was way back in the prequel trilogy and all your troopers are clones and stuff.
They make a lot of references to clones in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, but I don't like if you're gonna be a clone. Why would you have all like those fucked up hands and like you know no bottom half of your body? You got to be held up.
I think the theory that I like the best is that so when he died when he died in Return of the Jedi and he basically had that explosion of dark force energy.
Yeah.
So like that was him kind of where a light side Jedi becomes one with the Force, a dark side Jedi, when he dies, kind of explodes with the dark side energy, and he's not reabsorbed, but he can reform. But he's all like messed up when he does reform. And
the fact that we got to do all of this extra,
all these
connecting
mental
the
gymnastics,
dots, you know, Jesus.
So like even though like Rey quote unquote defeated him, he's just going to reform at a certain point, and this goes back to Darth Plagueis conquering death.
Mm-hmm. Did Plagueis conquer death for other people? Didn't he say in that speech to Anakin that like ironic he could stop other people from dying but not save himself?
I always thought the implication there was Sidious killed him.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, his apprentice killed him.
Absorbed his energy and knowledge.
Yeah,
that's I don't want to talk about that.
So another Last Jedi connection. I promise this is the last one. So there's a part right after Yoda escapes from Palpatine, and Bail Organa kind of comes and rescues him, and he's like, failed I have, go into exile I must.
Yeah. And
I sit there and I watch that line, and first of all, it's a stupid rationalization for just giving up and going into exile when you're like the most powerful living Jedi there is. But on top of that, like I sat there and I listened to that line, and I was like, wait a minute. In The Last Jedi, Ghost Yoda shows up and he says, failure, the greatest teacher is. Like he gives Luke this big speech about how like the greatest teacher we have is failure. And he learned from his failure, I got to go into exile, which is basically what Luke did. And so it's like, what exactly is Yoda teaching?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
I hate The Last Jedi.
I fucking hate The Last Jedi.
It just dawned on me I'm going to have to rewatch that stupid movie.
You are, yeah. We haven't announced it yet, but I guess I announced it to the Patreons, but we're doing a full month of Star Wars. So next week we're doing the spin-offs, Rogue One, Solo.
We're watching
Rogue
everything
One
in chronological
is
order.
so good. I'm telling you, man. You watch Rogue. Somebody put it online. I don't know if you've seen it, where they took the last couple minutes
and
of Rogue One and spliced it to the beginning of New Hope.
It's perfect.
And it's fucking, dude, it's so good.
It's good.
Save it for next week.
Next week we'll talk about Rogue One. But any final thoughts? I mean, obviously we all love the Anakin versus Obi-Wan battle. It's just
best sword fight.
Fantastic.
Best saber
Well,
fight
here's
ever.
something I do want to say about this that I said a while ago. X-Men First Class. I fucking love that movie, and I love the relationship between Xavier and Magneto, right? Mm-hmm. Professor X and Magneto. And to me, that felt like what they should have done, what they wanted to do with Anakin and Obi-Wan, because it was just so like, I felt it more in First Class. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where it's like, fuck, at the end of this, like these two dudes really do fucking love each other, but they're just so fundamentally opposed.
Yeah.
Philosophically. That they have to be at odds with one another, but they genuinely love each other like brothers. And I never felt that way with Obi-Wan and Anakin, other than just the exposition. We're like, you were my brother, I loved you, blah, blah, blah.
Which is funny because in the second movie, Anakin's always referring to Obi-Wan as a father figure.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan in the third movie is like, you were my brother. But, in a properly planned trilogy and a properly planned story, you would have a build up to that type of fallout and confrontation, where it felt like each of the prequel movies were almost like self-contained to the point where they were too episodic. They didn't build up to anything.
Yeah, and I just didn't care as much as I wanted to care about their falling out. And I didn't realize it until I saw First Class, and I was like, "Fuck, this is exactly
what you need,
that's how that should have been."
Yeah. I totally feel that. That's
I think
true.
To me that last half of that movie is so much better because that's the movie that I wanted to see since I was 12 years old.
Right.
You know, I wanted to see that last fight. I wanted to see how Vader was made. And all the build up to that was just fluff.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Is there any truth to that rumor that Spielberg helped direct that fight scene? Because I read that a long time ago.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes footage, and I don't see Spielberg anywhere in there. So I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested to find out for sure. But
Spielberg's been known to kind of ghost direct a lot of stuff, especially like for his friends.
'Cause that shit was good.
Wouldn't surprise me.
But the worst part of that fight is the end where it's like, it's over Anakin, I have the high ground. And you're just like, wait, what?
well, I don't know, man. I mean, again,
like,
this is
like,
kinda,
like Anakin could have just like hopped off over that little patch of lava there and continued fighting.
fighting uphill though. I don't know. I like that it's kind of a callback to episode 1 where Darth Maul very clearly had the high ground and Obi-Wan got the upper hand on him because he was cocky. You know, I have the high ground. I'm good. I'm just going to mess with you for a little while. But then go ahead.
Why did Obi-Wan just leave him there?
I don't
Because he couldn't bring
know.
himself
He couldn't
to
bring
kill
him to kill him. He couldn't walk over to him, just slaughter him.
He could have taken him somewhere and had him fixed up.
And then what?
And then what?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Come to-
He probably just assumed he was going to die. Because,
Yeah,
I mean, he
he
catches
assumed he
on
was
fire
dead.
when he's burning up while he walks
melting.
away. Yeah, you know.
I mean, I don't think he expected him to live much
He's
longer.
like, I hate you.
But he's
You know?
what a dick move, though.
Yeah. Well, it's Qui-Gon's influence.
Full circle.
And,
It's like I don't leave a dog laying there without putting him out of his misery.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan just left him
I think
a
he
charred, burning, breathing crisp. You know, it was
Yeah,
brutal.
with no legs and no arm.
I think he felt at that point that Anakin deserved that type of suffering.
Really?
he killed.
That's extreme.
That
right?
He killed
He-
children.
He force choked
He
his
did.
pregnant wife.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about the spousal abuse in this episode either. Yikes.
Oh my God! I watched a thing earlier today. It's so funny. So I watched a live stream on Facebook today, Lady Problems, and it was all about domestic abuse. And I couldn't help but think because I knew I was going to be talking about the prequels, about the
There's a lot of emotional and verbal
and
and physical abuse
in
in the prequels.
portrayed in especially in episode 3. You were with him.
It's so cringy. That whole
Yeah.
love story just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
It
Oh my
doesn't.
God.
There's no reason for those two to be together except for they're supposed to be together.
Yeah.
And how she names the kids is so arbitrary too. Like there's no build up.
There's no reason for those kids to be named that. Like they didn't have a baby naming book at their apartment or something with those two names circled.
And speaking of no reason to do stuff, so at the end, Bail Organa takes ownership of 3PO and R2 and hands them over to Antilles.
Yep, Captain Antilles.
Captain Antilles. And he just, after he does that, he's like, oh, and have the protocol droid's mind wiped. And you're just like, wait, why? I mean, I know why, but what was his motivation to like
knew
have
too
that
much.
and leave R2 intact?
I don't know. That doesn't make any sense either. It's just because he's not supposed to have any knowledge, I guess. Does he? Yeah, 3PO doesn't remember Obi-Wan. He doesn't remember anybody.
But what's
episode
crazy
4.
is Obi-Wan doesn't remember either of those guys.
The only reason I can justify that is because A, the prequels ruined everything, and B, because
The real answer is those movies weren't written yet.
yeah. I mean, let's be real about it. Like George didn't think about that, and I guess he didn't watch. I always felt like after 2005, when I would go back and watch the prequels, I always been like, did George not even watch the original trilogy when he made these movies?
How would you feel if they did an actual like reboot, like they did like with Spider-Man, like with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man? They totally rebooted. How would you feel if Disney was like, you know what? All these fans, everybody's bitching. Fuck it. We're going to reboot the whole thing.
Not with
I bet you it
Captain
happens
Kennedy.
in like 60, 70 years when they run out of fucking ideas.
Maybe.
When
but-
all of us original fans are all long
I'm
gone
dead.
and
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though is like if you look at Rise of Skywalker again, it's 3PO has this arc where he just keeps getting his mind wiped and like resetting to default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, don't
Yeah,
even.
but
Like,
R2 has his backup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hope
R2's the Deus Ex Machina of
No, yeah, he's through everything. Like if you watch like the Droids cartoon series into like the all of the movies into like Clone Wars, he's like the. It's like
Get out
it's
of jail
almost like
free card.
it's almost like if you think about it, maybe like I always thought this would be a cool idea. Is if like at the very end they were like it was R2 telling the story somehow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he's the only one that's
been through the whole thing.
everything.
I really
He
wish
remembers it all.
BB-8 had been replaced by R2.
Yeah.
In the sequel trilogy, like
Yeah.
I think it would have been more appropriate.
I agree with that. But they wanted to sell,
Yeah.
more merch,
I don't
have more toys. But I hope
J.J.
I'm here.
Abrams drew an 8 on a paper and was like, make this a robot. I don't know. Are we all sufficiently depressed now?
I mean, you know what? On my rewatch, I liked these movies much better than I have in the past, and I think it's just because I now have something worse to compare them to with the sequel trilogy.
That is true.
I
That
wish
is
I
true.
could say that.
Really?
You're on the same level. as the sequels?
My mind hasn't changed at all.
Oh,
That's
really?
funny. I'm actually going to finish episode 3, even though there's no point because we're doing the podcast now, just because it's like, I kind of just
You
want
have
to.
to. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to love about these movies, but they're just so bogged down by all these plot
I always tell
conveniences
people-
and character stuff.
I always tell people at least it's got the right DNA in them. They're still Star Wars,
Yeah.
so I don't loathe them like I do the Disney trilogy. So, I mean, they're still George Lucas. They're still Star Wars. They're still the characters we like.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
I can't help it. I'm still a purist. Like the original trilogies can't be messed with.
Nope.
And the prequels to me just didn't line up with it.
Nope.
Things just didn't make sense. There was a really cool. If you guys are as salty as we are about the prequel trilogy, I would suggest going and watching a series of YouTube videos called "What If the Star Wars Prequels Were Good." And this dude rewrote using the same characters and the same plot lines and everything. Just kind of reorganized everything and changed the characters around. He made Anakin older in the first one, and he made that relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin more of a brother as opposed to a father-son relationship. It was a brotherhood. And there was a really interesting little love triangle going on between him and Padme and Obi-Wan because they were all around the same age, so it made more sense. And that kind of sparked the rivalry between him and Obi-Wan. It was really, really well written, and he did like a little like pencil sketch animation type thing for it. It was great. So it's
There's also a fan edit of the Phantom Menace out there.
Yes.
That basically fixed the movie, like made it actually feel more like Star Wars and made it a better film.
yeah,
Really?
I've seen that too.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's
have not
really
seen
good.
that.
Yeah.
They basically just cut out like half of Jar Jar's parts and all the cringy dialogue. They cut that out.
Yeah,
and
like
they
all the aliens speak in alien language with subtitles, kind of like how
that's-
they did.
oh, that's
I
way
remember
better.
this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that called, man? Yeah, I have to get that link.
It's got to be like fan edit or something.
Phantom Menace fan edit.
I forget the name of it, but it was like when someone sent it to me, I was like, I didn't even like the original. I'm not gonna like this one, but it felt more like a Star Wars
Yeah.
movie, and it was really good.
I agree. I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun to watch, and it did improve the movie quite a bit. I mean, it's not perfect. It's still got some issues, but it's far, far better than what we got.
So, since we're talking about prequels, and I feel like we're wrapping up pretty soon, so like, would we all agree that like when the goal with a prequel should be to make whatever it's prequeling better, right? This will segue into, I hope I can be a guest on when you talk about Rogue One, but I feel like the only prequel I've actually ever seen in my life that does that is Rogue One.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
At least in the Star Wars space.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think outside Star Wars. We got The Hobbit for Lord of the Rings. I don't feel like did
Yeah.
anything to justify or to improve the originals.
Right.
What other prequel
And
movies are there?
you know what's funny? Episodes 1 through 3 started this whole prequel craze where it's basically an excuse for lazy writers to take ideas that have already been established and just expound upon them as opposed to coming up with their own original ideas.
Yeah.
Backstories can be really cool, except the stakes are very limited. You're boxing yourself in because automatically you know where everybody's going to end up.
Yeah.
However, it still can be done in a justifiable way.
What is it they say? It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
I mean, like if these movies had actually had a good story that was well structured and built up to, this big reveal of how Anakin became Darth Vader, I think that, the whole prequel trap about knowing how it's going to end wouldn't be an issue. But it was
Because that's what we were there to see.
Yeah, it was because these three movies were just so poorly made that they just fall short. So what I want to do is I want to go around here, starting with Alex. How would you rank the prequel trilogy in terms of just these three movies from best to worst?
3, 2. Let me start from best to worst. Is 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Or maybe 3, 1, 2. See, those two are interchangeable. I'd say 3, 1, 2 because I like the pod racing so much that it beats out pretty much anything else in episode 2.
Matt Vader, what's your ranking?
I concur. 3, 2, 1. But 1 and 2 are both like super close.
Yeah.
They flip flop every time I think about
Every
it.
time I think about it, I'm like, well, yeah, but that one part. Go ahead, Danny. What's
Well, if I hadn't been influenced by the whole father experience, I might feel like you guys. But I actually really like 2 because of the experience that I had. So for me, it's 3, 2, 1, like easily.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
Right on. Kadish, what about you?
I'd have to go with 3, 2, 1 as well.
Cool. All right, everybody. That's our episode. Talking, dump some serious salt on George Lucas. See, this is why I feel bad, because he sold the franchise because of people like us. We're like, your movies are shit.
Well, I think between all of us, how much money did we give? I mean, Jesus, you saw it like 10 times. I've seen the movies.
Yeah.
You've seen them. You saw it 3 times in one day. I mean, geez, like we're allowed. We gave those guys our money.
I'll say this: if Lucas had decided to step down after Phantom Menace and give the reins to someone else, these movies might have turned out a lot better. But I think it was his decision to keep directing all and writing all 3 of them.
Yeah,
that was the real Achilles heel of these films. Because I just don't think he.
Well, then,
I don't think he's a talented enough storyteller to handle.
He definitely had it. He had an A team with the original trilogy.
He did, but I mean, what's the sequel trilogy's excuse then?
Nostalgia.
Tune in 3 weeks.
Tune in in a couple of weeks. We'll tear that. This will seem mild compared to what we'll talk about.
I can't believe I'm going to have to watch all 3 of those movies again.
I don't know if I am.
Oh man, I won't. I don't know if I'll watch.
I'm
Last
actually
Jedi
going to be
again.
earnest about it. Like I watched the prequels. I've watched them recently. I think a couple months ago.
You mean
I watched
the
them with
sequels?
my son. No, the prequels. I watched the prequels recently before we decided to do this podcast, and then I rewatched them again. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down. I haven't done it yet, and I feel like I at least should do it once. I have not sat down and binged all 3 of the sequels in a row and try to feel what it would be like to have the whole story in front of you. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to earnestly try to do it.
On May 4th, they're putting The Rise of Skywalker on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I think it's only going to be there for the one day, though.
Really?
I think. Is that right?
I feel once they put it on there, they should just leave it there.
I think it's just for Star Wars Day.
Okay. Well, whatever. I'm going to watch all 3
I'm not
of them.
100% sure there.
I don't know. I feel like you could skip The Last Jedi and not lose anything really.
Except for Luke dying. You'd be like, why is he a ghost?
Because he lost the will to live.